Hey everybody, welcome to the Patty G Show. This week we are brewing up a cup of community coffee and taking a seat back and relaxing with the one and only Matt Saurage of Community Coffee, learning a little bit about the ins and outs of how a family business has run for 105 years and continuously runs successfully and grows each and every year to bring about the community feeling in homes, restaurants, offices, wherever you find it. That's what we're going to be chit-chatting about in this great episode of the Patty G Show. But before we get to that, I want to give a big, wonderful shout-out and thank you to the folks that bring you this show each and every week. Falaya Real Estate, Lakeman's Health Center, Gage, Currency Bank, the bank for business owners, and our latest apparel partner, Genteel Apparel. Without further ado, enjoy the show.
With our brand being so old and so well-defined, that if we continue to reinvest in innovation, making it younger and such, we've got to take a very sincere, genuine approach because people want that, but they don't want the basic character of the brand to change. So you can't fake it. You know, you got to be very patient, very smart about it, very sincere. And at the end of the day, it's really not, marketing is not that complicated. You know, you're just trying to convince somebody they need something they never knew they wanted. And sometimes what people really need and they don't realize they want is a product they trust in. You know, in a real good feeling that they're making a good purchase and they're delighted with the purchase, they're happy, they trust it. Most people don't really appreciate how much we want that every day in our life.
Yeah, and you want to know also when you're buying something, it's going to a good cause to a degree.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah.
You know, you've got companies that are involved locally. You've got companies that care about the actual customers, and they're not just trying to push product down your throat. You know, they're like, take this, take it. Where it's more of, no, we're invested here. We're trying to grow everything here. We're trying to get as big as we can, but we're going to find a way to be local. You know, each and every way that we can, and know that we had great roots to it. You know,
well, when Community Coffee was started, you know, it was started as an entrepreneur with a great idea. You know, packaging coffee in his backyard. But named it Community Coffee because it was already apparent that without the neighbors, without the friends, without the people that really supported him early on, the brand would never make it. And so that name Community then resonated with, okay, I have not only an ongoing concern, I have a business now. I'm making profits, time to give back. And so then giving back, completing that cycle of the community engagement really, I think, is part of the magic of many brands. And in our brand in particular, just because good fortune of the name to remind us that, you know, we started because of the generosity of others and the trust that they gave us. And we have a responsibility to give back in ways that are meaningful and sincere and relevant.
So it started in the backyard.
Yeah. It started, my great-grandfather moved to Baton Rouge from White Castle, Louisiana at the turn of the century, 1903, 1904. And he and his brother had a grocery store, just a dry goods store. And he would blend coffee, among other things, would blend and serve coffee there, and really enjoyed talking over coffee with customers. And he decided that he and his brother would go separate ways. The brother would continue the store, and he would continue the coffee business. And he started it in his backyard on Leon Street, which is 17th Street downtown, and began blending and packaging coffee there, and it took roots. And back then, there were a lot of coffee companies. I mean, you had a lot of small businesses. I mean, it was the turn of the century. I mean, Baton Rouge was on fire. They were building the Esso plant. You know, the Exxon facility was being built here. It was on a major waterway. There was lots of dry goods coming up from New Orleans. So to be competitive or relevant in just that one sector of coffee was a pretty brave, you know, move. And but it started just growing in concentric circles. You know, from downtown Baton Rouge, the outskirts of Baton Rouge, to parts of Mississippi and Lafayette and Houma, and, you know, basically grew the company just one step at a time. But in the end, you know, it took 2 or 3 generations for stability. Okay. You know, for a small business to become predictably stable. And, you know, I think that's part of the key to any kind of new venture is that patience and that confidence in your vision, and then having someone along the way to encourage you, which could be your own family, or it could be a mentor, somebody in the community to say, you know, nobody gets a home run on the first swing of the bat. You know, so keep going to the plate.
So, yeah, y'all been around since, 1919, so 105 years?
Yeah, 105 years, 5 generations. My children, some of my children are in the business. My niece and nephews have been participating in the business as they've grown up. Matter of fact, once a week I cup coffee, which is how we taste and evaluate some of the green coffees we're purchasing to roast. But I'll cup coffee with my mom on Tuesdays. My brother and my son or daughter will show up. So we have 3 generations around one table tasting coffee with our green coffee buyer, and that's pretty magical.
So walk us through that process, because you said green coffee. Everybody buys coffee they see already roasted and everything. So you're eating the beans, or what's happening with the green coffee there?
In its simplest form, coffee is grown around the world, and the majority of coffee that we purchase and import for roasting here in Baton Rouge comes from Central, South America, and then Africa. So we have many suppliers or available suppliers of green coffee. So they'll send us samples, and it's a recipe. We're looking for certain flavor or certain origin of coffee to use in our blends. So we have a green coffee buyer and staff that does that. And we meet with them every week to see what's changing in the product. It's an agricultural product. Coffee's grown on a coffee tree. It's basically like a cherry, and coffee would be the seed of that cherry. Okay. So it's farming in its rawest form. So if rain conditions are different, if there's the soil has changed, or if there's not enough sunlight or too much rain, one farm's product may not fit our requirements versus a farm on just the other side of the mountain. So we have to selectively go find our ingredients every year, then blend those ingredients to create our coffee. So green coffee is just a sample of coffee from origin from all around the world that's sent to us to taste, evaluate. We'll roast it, grind it, very much like you would consume it. And then there's a process that we call cupping, and it's a standardized tasting. So a standard way of evaluating the body of the coffee, the weight of it, the mouthfeel, the flavor, the aroma, the aftertaste, the brightness of the coffee. So this cupping is very standardized. We, as a coffee company, and all coffee companies around the world, use the same process to evaluate their incoming green coffees. And from there, we'll accept or decline coffee. And I can tell you, it's really fun. We're drinking coffee.
You're having a good coffee time.
Good coffee time. However, we'll be sampling 5 cups of coffee, 3 or 4 of us. And if we decide to purchase that coffee, that may be 40,000 pounds of coffee in one container that we're evaluating from those 5 cups that we're sampling for consistency and for its flavor. So as fun as it is, it's very serious. Yeah, very serious as well, because we're making buying decisions that 2 or 3 weeks later, a container from another country will be arriving at our ports for roasting.
So you better make sure you like that cup of coffee.
You better do it right. So we attend this cupping. We always have. There's always been a Saurage at the cupping table since the company started. It's important to us to keep a pulse on the industry and the relationships we have around the world, and the relationships we have with the green coffee buyers, and then to assist our purchasing group in making decisions about the coffee and just being a sounding board to ensure that over time, dark roast tastes like dark roast, and it's consistent over the years.
Yeah, and it's that same flavor that you expect. You don't want to have one cup of coffee one day and the next day is totally different. And it's like,
that would be just very disappointing.
How did this happen,
Yeah, it's one of the most difficult parts of the business is establishing the relationships at origin, because they're long-distance relationships, and there's different cultures and languages, and so it takes a very talented purchasing group to do this, to ensure the product is actually received and delivered on time for us to use in our roasting, and it's fresh. And then that when the recipe is created, it's consistent. And I think with Community Coffee, what we've been able to do over the years is have great consistency, great quality, at a good value as well. It's a labor-intensive product, and we're able to deliver the quality and consistency at a fair price. And it takes a lot of discipline, and that's before the selling, the marketing, the transportation. Right. It's just ensuring that everything we do is as good as our coffee, and that our coffee is great and consistently great over time.
Yeah, you're making sure that the product is going to be what people expect when they go to buy it. Nothing's changed. If they're getting the breakfast blend that they've always gotten, they want to make sure that it's going to be the same at this grocery store versus that grocery store, or wherever they're going to get it from.
That's right. You had asked me a question earlier about one of the lessons I've learned in life, and it was a lesson I learned from a professor who once said, a great way to kill a bad product is great advertising. So if
way to kill a bad product, great advertising. Oh,
that's
okay.
right.
Yeah.
So I'll say it again and maybe more clear. It's just a great way to kill a bad product is great advertising. And if you think about it, it's not about the advertising. It's not about the sales. It's about whether the product delivers on the promise.
Mm-hmm.
And if you don't deliver on the promise, no amount of advertising can cover that up. You won't have repeat business. You have to have a great product first, then have good advertising or great advertising.
Yeah, that's true, because if you buy it one time, even if you see it again and again and again, it's just going to bring you back to that bad experience.
Right.
And you're never going to want to purchase it again.
All right. That's why, Community Coffee, we believe that everything must be as good as our coffee. It starts with the gold standard of the coffee. And then from there on, that sets the gold standard. We start with quality, and then throughout the process, deliver upon that.
Welcome to the brand new Falaya mobile app. We took all the same tech that's helped hundreds of people sell their homes themselves and packed it into an easy-to-use app for your phone. When you download the Falaya mobile app on either the Apple or Android App Store, you'll immediately be able to see the power of this game-changing tool. From the seller's dashboard, you can navigate to all the information that you need. We intentionally separated everything into key groups, such as tasks to be completed, buyer leads for your listing, and contact information for everyone involved through closing. When you get an offer on your property, you can simply review and respond all within the app. No matter where you are in the world, you'll be able to monitor everything that's going on with your property from listed to sold. It's truly the power of Falaya in the palm of your hand. Download the app and see for yourself. Falaya, it's real estate reimagined.
And so you mentioned earlier it was like 2 to 3 generations before stability was found within Community Coffee. So your grandfather and your father, I guess, would be the second and third.
It was my great-grandfather.
Okay.
Great-grandfather Cap started the company.
Right.
And at that point, it was just a small business, and he probably struggled to make ends meet. My grandfather was born soon after the company was started.
That's always perfect. You start a company, you have a kid
You have a
shortly
kid.
after.
Yeah, he was. I think when the company was started, he was probably maybe 8 years old. He was very young when the brand really got to life. After they had established roots here in Baton Rouge. So by the time he became a teenager, he was working in the business. I mean, it was in the 20s, and he was working every day, trying to aspire to have an ongoing concern. Something we could rely on. And my grandfather and my great uncle worked in the business, and it was still a small family business. When my father entered the business, and he entered as a teenager, during high school, working the business, it was then a company, and it had a facility, and it had employees. Most of them were family and friends working for the business. But at that point, it was a reliable risk to bring the children into the business. That we think we may have something here, but that's in the third generation, and it's usually the generation in American businesses that fail for a number of reasons.
Yeah.
And the most common reason is not the conflict of the family. It's usually that the family has grown exponentially over generations, but the business hasn't. And that's the catch in the third generation is there's more mouths to feed. And if the business isn't really thriving by that time, it's now a hobby. It's not a source of income and stability for the family. And so that third generation was a very important time in our business. It's when it became truly a brand. Brand marketing was put in place. True discipline about who we are and who we are not. And then we've carried that through to the fourth and now fifth generation, which is very rare in our industry and in many industries. Today, we are the largest family-owned retail coffee brand in America. And if you think of that statement, you think back to the original conversation we had about the founding of the company, when there were many coffee companies, every community, every city had a coffee company in it. Well, how did we get here today where there's so few family coffee companies left? And one, because it's not easy. Two, because the globalization and difficulty of the business itself. And three is there will be more coffee companies, family-owned and operated in the future. They're surrounding you every day, which is why I'm a big believer in shopping local, frequenting local businesses, small businesses of all types, because everything is cyclical, and there's always a demand and a need for the next family business to come in, create something new, challenge an established brand like us with learning and innovation. That's what inspires us to keep going forward and bring in new ideas. So it's a cycle, and I have to remind myself that we won't always be the only large family-owned retail coffee brand in America. My goal is to introduce more people to the coffee business, have more competition, and really, make that marketplace in America what it should be, which is a lot of small companies competing.
And it keeps the business young and fresh to a degree, because
Absolutely.
you have to keep up with the trends and what people are wanting, and especially depending on the age demographic. You've been around for 105 years. If you're still serving one of your first customers when you started, that's a testament to their life. But,
Right.
You've got a turn of customers at this point. You can't say, well, our customers have always been this. No. Your customers are living and breathing and changing every single day. And their needs are to a degree. And so it's how do you adapt in the marketplace where your competition does. They present new ideas, new ways of delivering the product, new ways of servicing customers. And then you've got to figure out a way, well, how do we continue to change our form in a way, but still stay true to who we are?
Absolutely. The companies we compete with are global in nature. I mean, they're international companies. And so, sitting here in where we are, and we're not across the entire United States. I mean, we are through mail order, but we're really significantly concentrated in the Southeast.
It's one of the best feelings coming home is being able to get that cup of coffee from
tremendous.
Community. And it's anywhere else in the country that I'll go that doesn't have it, it's like I'm just struggling to make it through.
And we get calls. I was on a phone call literally this morning from someone asking why we are not everywhere we should be, because they had moved away from the state, and how to get the coffee. And they literally reached out to me, which I felt pretty good about. This was just a customer who saw my name and felt comfortable enough just to call me and ask the question, which was great. But it's that type of understanding where you are in a marketplace, what you can and cannot do, where you are and aren't relevant, which is, I think, part of the reason that we've been sustainable for so long. We didn't overstretch, we didn't grow too fast, but it's also embracing again the small business mentality. We've done many things in our business, creating a coffee house company. CC's Coffee House was created under the Community Coffee umbrella, reinventing the types of products we sell. Small businesses today are the ones that inspire the cold brew, the cold iced coffee kind of revolution that's going on. It's been a slowly bubbling up for probably 2 decades now, but it started these small coffee houses, small family businesses trying to do something creative and new. It's a requirement of us to listen and then get involved, be inspired by those new ideas by small companies, and never become the type of company that's become too large where it doesn't listen. It's not patient. It's not connected to its customers. That is a challenge for us as we grow. Yeah. How to keep the small family mentality, connectivity, and all that with our workforce, which now is 1,000 employees over many states. How do you just stay small and relevant and creative and have that kind of grit, that a small entrepreneur has?
So, and how have y'all seen that? To your point earlier, the second and third generations is when companies tend to fall off, and it's because they had that hyper early success, and then the second generation says, maybe I can do it as good as dad did, or dad and mom did, and then the third generation says, well, we've always known it to be great times, and so it's just going to continue operating as it should have. But for y'all, it's almost, okay, we've been building this slowly, and we've been doing controlled growth, and each time it's happening, it's not so much great, you can step into my shoes. It's, here's the baton, you have the rest of the race to run. We've run our race. Now it's your turn.
Yeah. Well, that handoff's not as smooth as you just.
It's not like the Olympics, that's just a simple handoff.
Remember, it's a family business, so that person handing the baton is probably related to you and someone that you've admired and wanted to follow in their footsteps and learn from. And part of it is one, being inspired. You have to want to do the work. Mm-hmm. You have to really love the business. And each of our employees, this Saurage family didn't create all this by themselves. I mean, this is our employees, and so inspiring them with great ideas and permission to fail, in many cases, permission to make mistakes, to try something new, to ask questions to the person in the mirror that you may not have thought about asking before. Really looking at yourself and asking, am I truly living my purpose, my life, or am I trying to just repeat something of the past? Because there's tremendous learning from history, tremendous learning. But this is your book, your story. You have to do it your way. And so being inspired to do things differently is a core value of our company. It's investment in people and curiosity and doing great things, but allowing yourself to do it differently. Otherwise, you become your grandfather's Oldsmobile. so to say.
That's a good way to put it. And so at what point, obviously it was started out as backyard coffee with the community involvement. And then you mentioned, the CC's Coffee House came out under the umbrella. Were you around whenever that actually came out for the first time, or when were those starting to pop up?
Yeah, that was 1995.
Okay.
When the first CC's Coffee House opened in New Orleans, Louisiana. The second one opened here in Baton Rouge. And that business did well as a defensive measure. We were defending against a company out of Seattle that had just gone public in 1993.
Familiar what company that is?
Right. So we decided that we did not want somebody in our backyard defining what specialty coffee was. We really enjoyed the business and then went offensive and decided to grow the business. And that did very well until it became large enough that, it is a restaurant business. It's so different than what we do at community coffee.
Right.
And so we separated the business, excuse me, in 2013.
Okay.
And allowed it to prosper as a restaurant franchise style of business. But it was a great connective tissue of the consumer, the introduction to coffee, recruiting employees into our company, familiarizing ourselves with what was going on in the coffee house scene, which is very different than what we do with roasting, delivering coffee to offices and restaurants and hotels. So it was a great experiment, learning experience, but it was a great risk. Completely different business.
Oh yeah.
Different mindset. And it was one of the better investments we made in our company. Most of our peer companies did not pursue that path. And they just kept doing things the same way that they always have. So, there was a point where we realized as Community Coffee, we were the only company of any size in America that delivered its product on its own trucks to restaurants and hotels, that had a coffee house business. That was a roaster and packager of its own brand of coffee. It wasn't outsourced. And that was doing business on the internet, which was a thing to say that at one time. We were the only company doing it. And it was very difficult and complex, but that was the creativity that was really occurring in 2000, 2004, 2007. And therefore we spun off CC's Coffee House and has continued to chart its own course. And Community Coffee has spent time now with learnings of how do we bring convenience and health through coffee. How do we embrace the cold coffee? Creating cold coffee in your home is something that you can concentrate or something you prepare coffee without a coffee brewer. The role of instant coffee, of all things, instant coffee, is becoming better and better in quality, and it's super convenient. And the young consumer completely understands a powder plus water equals a beverage. Mm-hmm. So, it's that type of creativity that we have to continue to instill in the brand.
Yeah, and at the time, the coffee houses allowed you to have direct feedback from the end users. If you're going to a restaurant, hotel, or a grocery store, you don't ever see the person that's consuming the product. And so then you're able to actually have that person say, this tastes different today, or I like it with this, this, and this in it. And then you have all these almost like test kitchens of how can we then refine the product and the brand to attract more people to consume it.
It's a great observation. It is the truth. It's our own petri dish, and you can ask for feedback and ideas, and immediately if somebody's disappointed, and but you also what attracted them to you. Mm-hmm. So when you have an 18-year-old come to LSU and walk in your doors, your coffee house, and ask for something you've never heard of before, you start to think, okay, maybe there's something going on the West Coast or East Coast I need to pay attention to. So it is a great marketing research vehicle for the company. There still is the connection between the two. An exchange of ideas. I think that's really important as we grow.
Yeah, having that connection. I mean, you've got to, right? You can't say, well, we're now the restaurant side, and you're now just a vendor. Right. It's like, well, no, you're still our voice. Like you're still actually delivering what we have, and we're a part of this kitchen. But the restaurant business is totally different.
Completely different. It really is.
Than that of just roasting coffee.
That's right. But again, I go back to my hobbies. What's my hobby? Roasting coffee. There's so much to do in the world of coffee, both in the way that it's created and served and enters our lives, yours and my life as a consumer, and a lot of work to do at origin, where that green coffee comes from, the farming communities that produce coffee. They have lots of challenges, and part of our responsibility is to be good consumers of coffee and grow this business so that they grow their exports from these countries like Colombia or El Salvador or Honduras or Brazil. They really rely on it. So there's a lot to do. So I think I have a pretty good hobby, but it is multifaceted and it extends way beyond the grocery shelf.
So as part of that process, are you going out to those specific farms and kind of meeting with the people and actually getting to experience their culture and figure out their way of life to then how do we improve that and translate it across a container to get back to here to Baton Rouge?
As best we can, yes. And we buy from many farms. We have representatives and exporters in these countries that help us identify those opportunities to connect with directly a farm that has something that's maybe very uniquely, a unique opportunity for us. We've had programs at Origin, such as in Colombia, with this growing community that we purchase all their coffee. We were the only purchaser of their coffee into America. It was exclusive to us. And in return, we would pay a premium for the coffee, and way above market rates. But there was an allocation of a dime per bag at the time that was matched by the Colombian Coffee Federation with another dime, and matched by a local business. It was a petrol company with another dime. They have 30 cents. 30 cents at Origin can do many things. And they were able to improve their washing stations and processing stations for the green coffee, getting it ready for export. They were able to do community investment for the small growing community in Colombia. They restored a farmhouse to a school, which used to serve as a school, and it does today. It exists today. It's that type of impactful things that anybody can do if they take the time to do it. And we were fortunate enough to have the opportunity to do things like that, and in Rwanda and in Mexico and other countries. But we can't do it with every farm, unfortunately. So part of our purpose is to bring awareness of the fact that coffee is an agricultural product. It's farmed on small family farms all around the world. And the more that you appreciate the quality of that coffee and get connected to its origin, there are opportunities to get involved. And there's good organizations doing good work on the ground to help these farms remain profitable, be multi-generational, address the issues with climate change, because it is real. There is climate changes occurring in coffee growing regions around the world. And so we can't do it all ourselves.
Yeah.
But we and many coffee companies will select one or two farms and just make an impact, and then support the third parties that are also making investments in the coffee growing regions.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, y'all are just doing a dime, but you have those other two people that are coming and matching it. Goes tremendous volumes.
It's like giving $1 to a school teacher and seeing how far they can stretch it. It is amazing with the resources you can provide, just with simple outreach, and just because you care, how what a difference it can really make at Origin, or in that case in a classroom. Yeah. And I've seen that happen through our Community Cash for Schools program, for 3 decades now, where a teacher will participate in the program, collect proofs of purchase from Community Coffee, and each one is worth a sum of money. They get a check that they can spend any way in their classroom. And I didn't know you could do so much with $1, in a classroom, but you can brighten a classroom. You can bring in a teaching aid. You can purchase seeds to plant a garden for a butterfly garden, whatever your teaching curriculum is. And it's things like that are so important that we make sure that we continue to do as a coffee company, with that first name of community, giving back in ways like that.
Thank you so very much to Currency Bank, a proud sponsor of the Patty G Show. If you are looking for a business bank that fosters on 3 core values, relationships, service, and technology, Currency Bank is the place for you. They pride themselves on convenient, accessible, and secure online banking resources where you can manage your account balances, initiate transfers, enroll with e-statements, and more via their online portal. Between the relationships, the service, and the technology, they are going to be that partner with your business every step of the way, regardless of what you need. Currency Bank is the bank for business owners.
So what are some other programs that you'll have built in going on today?
So besides Community Cash for Schools, which is really the most impactful here in Louisiana, I mean, this is really something that is making a big difference for hundreds of schools. We also do work with our support of our military around the world. There's over, I think the number right now is a little excess of 1.2 million men and women that serve in non-combat roles, but around the world for our armed forces, and they're all the way from home. And so we have programs where we will, like our military match program, where if somebody sends Community Coffee to a service man or woman anywhere around the world, we'll double the order and send maybe a note. Maybe they'll get a mug. I mean, little trinkets. But it reminds, it brings them closer to home. Yeah. And that's a hard order and sacrifice people make to serve in our military. and be away from home. So we try to connect them with home through military match. We also do work for first responders, and this is something that's, after Katrina, it really took on a more of a formal structure in our company of becoming really good at disaster response in whatever way that we can. And sometimes it's providing just that warm cup of coffee and that comfort to someone that's in a Red Cross shelter. Sometimes it's in providing resources for Salvation Army and others to bring to the regions that are impacted by whatever type of disaster or hardship that they're experiencing at the time. Those have been very important to us. Those three pillars, and the fourth then being sustainability, kind of that work at the origin. We continue to invest a lot there. That is the lifeblood of our company is of those family farms all around the world.
Yeah, I think it's something interesting about the coffee crop, right? That y'all are seeing it all the way at the farm, and y'all are dealing with the farmer specifically, where you've got, your restaurants, for example, you're looking at more in-product stuff when you're selling. You're not necessarily going back to the origin of that specific product, because there could be multiple different pieces that got to get added along the way. Whereas for you can go over and see the tree that you're then going to harvest the coffee beans from to then be used for roasting in an actual product. So you're, from the ground up, you're able to see that product be delivered and control the impact that you can have in whatever region or community it's in.
We try our best, but we do not do it alone. We work with other coffee companies, and again, third parties that really help to, because you can't visit every farm, but we can set some expectations about fair labor practices, proper care of the land, and as far as water pollution, or processes that be sure that all the resources that are available to a farmer is used, whether it be fertilizer or regenerative crops. And so a lot of our role is not in actually being able to visit that farm and teach that farmer, but support organizations that are bringing that technical training to the farm, so that farmer has the best chance to have high yield, profitable farming business and be around next year for us to purchase from.
Yeah.
And it's very rewarding to see that come full circle. It takes time, like education.
Oh, yeah.
It's a generational thing. It doesn't happen overnight. But in my career at the company, and in the last 10 or 12 years now that I've been involved with the sustainable side of the business, we're starting to see results, and you're starting to see profitable farming in the next generation of farmers come in. Just like our investment education, you're seeing strength in our education and new crops of teachers coming in. So, yeah, it's a rewarding part of the business that's far beyond the delivery of coffee to the shelf or to the restaurant.
Well, and I think the methodology behind it brings that sense of community to the farms, meaning that y'all aren't coming in and saying we're gonna interject ourselves as community coffee and control what you do. It's who are the leaders in your community that know it better than we do, and let's figure out how we can help them to then be that local boots on the ground type of people, where we're not coming in saying, no, you got to do it the way that we do it in the States, because every country, climate, every place that you're purchasing from is different. And so having that method of let's find the local leaders, let's get in touch with them, and let's help them then better on their own place. That's the sustainability efforts in a whole that's going to build long-term success, like you're mentioning.
You're spot on. Yeah, you're spot on. You should speak about that, because you're exactly right. Sustainability has many different faces to it. And
right.
One is environmental sustainability. I think we all understand maybe what that is. Then you have financial, economic stability and sustainability of a farming community. But then you've got the cultural sustainability. And so you can't interrupt the culture. And what you can do is provide the resources, provide the support. But at the end of the day, you're having to change the way generations of people have done things. And you don't want to interrupt that culture. It needs to be embraced. Mm-hmm. So it is a patient game. But when you economically, environmentally, culturally, you're able to have a sustainable business cycle, then things can work. Then you can see the communities really thrive in long-term, like, as I said, be the lifeblood of our industry. Without coffee being imported through New Orleans to Baton Rouge, we don't have a business. We don't have anything to sell, but a brand that relies solely on the quality of that coffee.
Yeah, when it's that model of, give a fish to a man, feed him for a day, teach a man to fish, feed him for a lifetime.
Right.
You're not just saying, well, here's a bunch of money, figure out your stuff. It's no, we need to make sure you can last. We've lasted 105 years so far. We got to make sure our partners can continue to last with us, or to your point, you've got no product to sell.
That's right. Because I plan to be here 105 years more, and so do our employees. We've got one of our responsibilities, and we look at the community brand is, and we look at Baton Rouge. I mean, why do we exist here in Baton Rouge, and what does it mean to us? Over the last century, we've prospered because of the hard work of others. Those who work in our business and those who support our product. So, Baton Rouge has been good to us. And so we have a responsibility to continue to grow and employ and provide opportunities for others. So the last we want to do is run out of coffee to sell, because that would slow things down quite a bit. But the second thing is that we want to be able to expand that portfolio. So, have people bring technology and ideas. You talk about our school system, talk about upper education. There's a lot of technology to be deployed in our industry. There's a lot of solutions that we're still seeking in coffee for convenience, freshness, packaging, sustainable packaging, and then the talent of the folks who sell, manufacture, and service that our business each and every day. So, we see our responsibility at Baton Rouge to be job creation, sustainable job creation, with strong wages, and also celebrating the fact we have an identity. There's nothing that you made a comment earlier that gives me a real sense of pride for the people in our company is when you come home and you've got an identity for community coffee in Louisiana.
This episode of the Patty G Show is sponsored by Genteel Apparel. Genteel Apparel is our newest clothing outfitter. We've got a great partnership with them. Head on over to the website, pattygshow.com/sponsors, to learn a little bit more about them, and there's a little treat there for you when you get there. Again, this episode is brought to you by Genteel Apparel.
Yeah. A regional identity. That's really special. Not every brand gets to enjoy that, and not every city or region gets to own that. And the fact that we've been able to sustain that for a century, and it is part of our identity. Like it or not, this brand is not my brand. This is our brand. This is Baton Rouge's brand and Louisiana's brand. And so we have an obligation to push that forward and ensure that pride and that purpose, that reason for being, continues to expand, employ more people, bring more opportunities to this area, create more awareness of our art, our culture, our food, and of which coffee is just one part of it.
And I think that's the part that I like the best and commend community coffee on, is staying true to the roots. We see a lot of great companies that are founded and started here, and then for one reason or another they decide to relocate their headquarters, so to speak, and they operate elsewhere. Whereas y'all are staying true to that root of who you are and where you kind of found your home. And to your point of bringing people here, I think is amazing for not only the economics of the situation, but also just the the social aspect of it all, where you're bringing people to your community and saying, this is where we were founded and where we're staying, and just going to start to kind of get beyond that and hopefully get to that person in Seattle or wherever they were calling from, saying, why aren't you everywhere? Yeah. It's like you're bringing your sense of home wherever you go, but yet you're still here 105 years later, and you haven't said, we're going to move to insert big city name here because that's where the jobs are. So no, we're going to figure out a way to better our surroundings and our community to make people say, no, I want to go work for you where you're at in Baton Rouge.
Yeah. Well, why Baton Rouge? And the answer there is, of course, why not? I mean, why not Baton Rouge? We have this this tremendous joie de vivre here. We live in the most beautiful part of the country. We have a unique identity. We have a great higher education system. We have good people, and in a sense of community that you don't realize how fortunate you are until you leave. And then when you come back home, that we have, family returns to Louisiana, and our ability to recruit talent into the state is very strong because people want to come home. They want to be here, and it's a great place to be. Now we have some work to do. We always do, but with support of the business community, I don't know of any business that can't find solutions here regionally. We have tremendous resources from the state, economic development, from higher education, from just the innovation that's in our workforce. There's no reason a business cannot prosper here. Now, some businesses may have to make a decision to leave for other resources that are available in this area. But for us, all a business is a group of people. That's all a company is. And so we're defined, by the quality of our product, but the quality of our people. Yeah. And we have not found any reason that you can't find that quality here. We're very blessed with the resources we have here in Baton Rouge and in Louisiana. So why not Baton Rouge? That's my challenge.
I love it, and it's, we ask people, what do they love about Baton Rouge and Louisiana and everything towards the end of the show. But for me, when I think about it and reflect on it, it's the flavors bring you back here. The flavor of Louisiana, and whatever lens you want to look at that. From a food or a drink standpoint, it's true. When you go to another city or another state or another country for that matter, you just don't have as bold of flavors as we have here in Louisiana.
Yeah.
It's like everything that we do here, whether it's cooking or brewing a cup of coffee, we have a sense of pride behind it, and we have a sense of reasoning and like purpose built into everything we do. And then you taste it in our products, whether it's a consumable or a non-consumable product. You can tell that somebody put their heart and their soul into making whatever that was. And it comes all the way down to a cup of coffee. You can have a cup of coffee at a diner on one side of the country and come back here to Baton Rouge, go to a diner, and you're going to be like, this is what it's supposed to taste like.
Yeah.
Like, it just makes sense.
And we like to believe we can bring joy to coffee experiences. And if that's the joy, is coming home and saying, finally, a cup of coffee. I love my coffee. That's wonderful. And my purpose is, among many things, one of my purposes or goals for this business is, in my lifetime, it is, I want us to be the most beloved and trusted and shared brand of coffee in America. I want everybody to have an opportunity to experience community coffee. And a lot of that's going to be through word of mouth. A lot of it's going to be through sharing those experiences with others of, let me introduce you to something that's meaningful to me, has an identity with me, and I want to share it with you. That's the highest compliment a brand like ours can receive, is that type. And then to not only earn your trust, but to ensure you always are a trusted brand that you want to share with others. To me, that's a home run. It doesn't mean we'd be the largest coffee company in America. That's not the goal. Or that we'd be available everywhere nationwide. That's not the goal. The goal is that everyone in America has the opportunity to experience and have access to the most beloved, trusted, great tasting brand of coffee. And that's us. And that it grows this community, that it sustains through generations for my children and my grandchildren, and for our employees' children and grandchildren, because we have multi-generational employees, and that community coffee remains part of our identity of kind of who we are or what we can do as a state and as a people.
And I think with that purpose in mind from a business, whether it's in any business, any industry, having that as a mindset will take them for years and years and generations to come, because it's not so much, well, we got to hit this bottom line number, we got to hit this number of cups sold. It's no. We want to be available to as many people as we possibly can, and we're going to do it through all these different avenues. That to me is how you build your true level of sustainability within an organization.
It's not easy.
It's not easy.
You still have to
all.
pay the bills, but the good thing is, being a private company, one of the things that's allowed us to be where we are today is we've made some long-term decisions. It's a calendar's man-made, so a 12-month goal is just a goal. Some of the decisions we've had to, some of the most difficult decisions we've had to make were the easiest to make because they were the right thing to do, and not compromising quality for cost. To make the hard decision to maybe not make as much money this year, or in some years, particularly or the Katrina year, maybe not make money at all, but try to do the right thing. Just there will be another day. There will be another year. We're here for the long haul. It's a tremendous amount of discipline, but when we bring folks into the company that may have worked for a public company or a different company, they're very thankful for that, because they realize I'm trying to do the right thing. And sometimes we may lose money. I may have to leave an account because it just feels that they're not the right, they're not paying us, or whatever the issue may be. Doing right has results, and doing right is a long-term way of thinking. We must be profitable. We must have a strong and enduring, profitable company over time. But the decisions you make day to day cannot be time bound to what's the way to make the most money or to get out of here being a winner today. You
Right.
got to look long term. That's the way we try to live our values, is to bring joy to others, to be a great coffee company, and do the right thing.
Yeah, and I think with that mentality, it's going to continue to take the company on for years and years and years. I want to talk a little bit. You mentioned about the health space, right? So what does that look like for community coffee?
Well, I'll tell you what, there's some great things about coffee that, when years ago, there was this thought that coffee was bad for your health. There was concerns about coffee.
Too much caffeine, right?
Too much. Well, it was too much caffeine. It may even be cause cancer. Maybe linked to cancer. That was bad science. That was really bad science. And the World Health Organization is the organization that declares whether something has no indication of being linked to cancer at all, or that it may be a contributor, or maybe actually a hazard. And in the last 10 years, I don't remember the exact year. I think it was 2016. World Health Organization reclassified coffee is not likely to have any link to cancer. Coffee was the first food or beverage ever to move from a category of may be linked to cancer to is not likely to have any connection to cancer. We're the only ones. We were the first at that time to ever take a step towards the healthier direction. So we're not linked at all today. The reason was it was science. It was bad science. The research was flawed that occurred back in the early 90s. So we all knew this because there have been so much health studies around its effect on people's mental acuity, its effect on diabetes or being protective against diabetes, colon cancer in particular. Coffee is a healthy benefit to reduce the chances of that cancer and many other types of cancer. This has been repeated over and over, but people needed to have the trust and the authority to say, okay, is coffee healthy or not? Well, without any argument today, people know coffee is good for you. It is good for the environment. It's good for the economy. And it generates $1.2 billion of economic activity in the United States. So coffee is good for you in health-wise.
This episode is proudly presented by Gage. Gage is a local company here in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. For over 40 years, Gage has provided businesses with the very best telecommunications, IT, and standby power services available. Gage has a variety of services, including Gage Cloud Voice. It is the last phone system your business will ever need. You need to give your business the ability to be accessible anytime, anywhere, and with Gage's cloud-based phone system, you'll be able to accomplish just that. Not only do they have Gage Cloud Voice, they have fully managed IT services that are proactive network monitoring, 24/7, 365, help desk, business continuity. They are there for you. What you're also going to need is some cybersecurity. Gage is there to safeguard your business from potential cyber threats, even when you aren't aware they exist. Gage also is power and leaders in standby generators. They are the #1 Cummins dealer on the Gulf Coast and provide generators to homes and businesses of any size so you can keep life going. Gage, better connected, a proud sponsor of the Patty G Show.
Caffeine can be controlled, and caffeine is probably the one component of coffee that people do need to control, depending on where their health status may be or their age. So I'm going to tell you something that most people outside this listening area will never know, and it's one of the greatest kept secrets about Louisiana, is the role that chicory plays in coffee. So here in Baton Rouge, we drink pure coffee. Very few of us drink coffee and chicory. 60 miles away in New Orleans, half of that population drinks coffee and chicory.
That's the only type my father-in-law drinks is the coffee and chicory.
Yeah, and it's great. And chicory is like coffee. It has this rap about it that people don't understand. Chicory is a superfood. So Pennington Medical actually did some research on lots of things related to health and obesity and superfoods, and really how to the role of food plays in health. And chicory is a natural source of antioxidants. It's one of the largest sources of antioxidants in the European diet. Chicory is a natural type 2 beta blocker for type 2 diabetes. Chicory ranks up there with blueberries and superfoods that are very popular in the diet. And chicory has no caffeine at all. So not only is it flavorful, not only is it good for you, but it has zero caffeine. So a coffee and chicory they drink in New Orleans is actually a super healthy beverage, because you're introducing coffee with chicory, and then you're able to regulate your caffeine intake. So it's things like that we're trying to bring forth in coffee. Coffee and chicory is a great product to brew cold brew coffee.
Okay.
I mean, it is the original cold brew from New Orleans is coffee and chicory.
I didn't know that.
The extraction produces a rich, dark color. It's very flavorful. If you drink coffee and chicory, you know how flavorful and sweet it can be. And it's always been the source of cold brew in New Orleans, where, in my opinion, cold brew was created in New Orleans. I certainly never knew of it anywhere else before New Orleans. So coffee is on the health spectrum, and coffee and chicory is now seen as part of a diet. The food pyramid, the FDA guidelines on recommended foods. You remember the 5 grains and the 2 dairies, and coffee and tea is a healthy beverage. It's being classified as healthy and good for you, when in the past it was just water that was healthy and good for you. But now they're looking at what are the benefits of coffee in addition to water. What does it bring to the water? And in the case, it brings all these health aspects that they're researching today to understand why does a product like coffee have an effect on the development of Alzheimer's in Americans, or why does it have an effect on esophageal cancer? Why is there a lower recurrence with coffee drinkers than others? So we're really leveraging that towards the convenience and health aspect, which is, did you know that coffee is part of a healthy diet, and 4 cups a day is what is required to really trigger a lot of these health benefits that the research has identified. Did you know that chicory is not a filler? Chicory is original flavoring to add to coffee, and chicory has health benefits. And coffee and chicory is a good solution for those who need to regulate caffeine intake. And did you know that decaffeinated coffee has 0 caffeine or trace amounts of caffeine and is very flavorful? You're not compromising flavor or aroma or quality when you drink decaffeinated coffee from Community Coffee. These are the things that families like mine want to bring into their diet as we're pushing other foods out of our diet.
So 4 cups of coffee a day.
Sounds like a lot, doesn't it?
So is it 4 8-ounce? What's the ounce consumption there?
It sounds like a lot. Most
sounds
people,
like a whole lot.
Yeah, the average in America, the average cups of coffee per day is still less than 3.
Okay,
on average. What they found is, and cups are going to be 8-ounce cups. I mean, it's kind of arbitrary in the questionnaire of how many cups of coffee do you drink a day. Your cups and my cups are probably much different. But what they found in the science is that it does take about 4 cups of coffee a day to really create these substantial health benefits. So for me, that's good news because I'm encouraging everybody to drink more coffee, consume more, but also just to be aware of the way that you can consume coffee. So you may have caffeinated coffee in the morning, but you may have decaffeinated coffee or coffee and chicory cold brew in the afternoons, just because you want to regulate the amount of caffeine intake that you have. You may not want to be jittery, but you may want to continue to consume coffee. And then there's other ways to consume coffee as well in baking, substituting coffee for the ingredient of water in many recipes, particularly when it comes to baking or in preparation of savory foods like meats. Use coffee instead of water, in your basting or in your gravies and stuff. And there's other ways. I have a whole list of ways you can consume
we
coffee.
We need to have like a whole cooking segment, cooking with Matt.
Cooking with Matt. Yeah, coffee ice cream, right? Everybody's favorite. But
absolutely.
But it is a high order. I don't expect people to drink 4 cups of coffee a day. But I do want to encourage them not to avoid coffee in their diet because it does have a role. There is a place for coffee and health benefits derived from that in the American diet.
Yeah, which, to your point, is kind of on that change of view and perspective of, hey, here's reality. Reality is it's good for you to have some coffee. If you don't want to get jittery towards the end of the day or caffeine affects you in a certain way, to your point, you got coffee and chicory to regulate it, and you have your decaffeinated options as well. But still having that, that bean, that ability to get something in you to help you can go a long way.
Yeah, it really is. And I got to tell you, it's the science excites me. I'm a consumer of the science, just like I'm a consumer of what's going on in agricultural process with coffee, and the science excites me for coffee and the future that it has long term in our society is something that coffee's not grown in America. We grow coffee in Hawaii. There's some small attempts to grow coffee in Texas and California today, but it's a product that's imported to the United States.
Right.
It is something that we as a society and as a government haven't done a lot of research on or scientific research on, but it's occurring now, and the results are eye-opening to say that this is a good product. It makes a difference in people's lives, not only from the consuming side but on the growing side. It's a significant cash crop for these growing countries. I think Honduras, 18% of the gross domestic product of Honduras is coffee
18?
exports. So it's very meaningful to many of these countries that we source our coffee from. So if I can bring a voice to it of how we can bring joy, bring comfort, benefit your health, be part of a trusted routine in your day, if all of this can be delivered through community coffee, then I've got obligation to share it because I believe it.
Absolutely. And little do people know that cup of coffee they're having is impacting somebody in a third world, in a different country where up to 18% of their GDP is based off of you having that cup of coffee.
It's a staggering fact. And
that's incredible.
It's not unusual in Central America for coffee and other cash crops like that to really play a super important role to those people. And so buying coffee from the quality coffee, investing in those farms and those people does make a difference in sustaining their community. So they stay home, they farm, and they take pride in it, and they have financial security, and their culture prospers. And of course, it all starts with taking care of that farm.
Absolutely. So as we kind of start to wrap up the show, we have a set list of questions we ask every guest. And so the first one being, what is something you did as a kid you wish you could still do today?
Other than run effortlessly forever, I dreamed without limits as a kid, and I try to keep bias and remind myself to continue to dream without limitation.
Love it. What are 3 lessons you've learned along the way? I mean, you're coming into this company being the 4th generation, and now you're passing it down. How do you kind of see the lessons progressing over the years that you've learned?
My values haven't changed, and I don't think they're going to change as in the future either. Simple things such as just be kind, love all, serve all, be patient, listen, and take action that you feel that that is right. There's some of the lessons that I've learned, and I continue to live every day, and I think that they will last into the future generations.
Yeah, they'll never go away.
Never go away. They shouldn't. We've got to be. Kindness is contagious. We've got to be kind, and we've got to listen, and we have to take action if we want to expect a change in our environment or in our future for our families or for our community.
Yeah, we can't wait for somebody else to come in and make a change. We've got to be part of the change that we want to see in
Absolutely.
our community. So what is something you love about Baton Rouge?
My family's been here for over 100 years, and we've been in Louisiana for almost 200 years. What I love about Baton Rouge, it'd be simple to say just the people, but I think it's just the way that people respect each other, the welcoming sense of walking around Tiger Stadium and someone offering you food at a tailgate.
So great.
It is just, you don't realize how special it is and how open our community is until you feel like an outsider somewhere else. And I've always appreciated that Baton Rouge is people are very generous here. They are open, they are welcoming, and they care greatly about sharing their story with you and getting to know you. That's really unique. I think it comes from a small place like Baton Rouge, and it's unique to us. And that's before all of the fun and joie de vivre and music and arts and other activities we have here. It's just that people are good. I do think we have an opportunity to be better, much better. I think we have an opportunity to not be afraid to see what we see in our community and address it. I think it takes bold steps, but I have faith in this city and this community that we can do those things.
Yeah, we can continuously improve, and we're never going to be perfect, but it's how do we make ourselves 1% better every single day.
Yeah, and if you want to really appreciate why Baton Rouge is uniquely special from just an aesthetic point of view, there is nothing like standing on that levee of the Mississippi River and looking at that river and looking across the river and seeing a sunset and realize how fortunate we are to live in a country that we do, a state that we do, with a resource like the Mississippi River that for hundreds of years now has played a significant role in this country. And we're fortunate to be part of that, to live on this river, to be upstream from New Orleans, which has had such a big role in the United States, and to be bringing food and tradition like community coffee, outside of the state and sharing it with others. That river reminds me of it when I see it flow by. That we're just one town along a mighty Mississippi River. We're very fortunate to be Baton Rouge and to be here and have the opportunity we have to share our gifts with others.
That river is something that is so iconic that we don't realize how powerful it is beyond Louisiana, right? So, my dad is a civil engineer and was working with some people in different states, and they were like, wait, you've seen the Mississippi River? He's like, seen it? Like, I live right next to it. And they're like, oh my goodness, like, tell us more. Like, they're so fascinated at something that we just drive over and say, oh, we think it's a pain that it's here, right? Because we have to go cross it.
The bridge.
We got to go cross the bridge. We think it's a pain to have the Mississippi River. But to your point, it is something that is so powerful from a commerce standpoint and just from a whole life standpoint that we should always be appreciative of the fact that it's here and our city is, right on it.
Yeah. Yeah. It just reminds me when I look across the river, and I don't go often enough. Yeah, I live very close to the Mississippi, but to stand that levee, it just reminds me of the opportunities we have, to look out on that horizon and say, it's a beautiful place. We live in a very special place in the world. We should be very thankful to be here. We've got a lot of work to do, but thank goodness we're surrounded with good, hardworking people that want to make a difference and improve this city and this region and this state.
Absolutely. So for the final question, what can I do to help you?
Share my story. Share our story. I think Community Coffee is just part of that book of what we're doing. I think it is an example of what good people working together can accomplish. Because at the end of the day, that's all a company is a group of people trying to do good work. And I think the more we can tell stories, if they inspire others, they attract others to join this city and contribute to this economy, then you'll be doing us all a great favor. But thanks for having me here today. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely. Thank you for coming on the show, and thank you for your time and sharing your family's journey, man. I love it.
Oh, thank you.
Looking forward to the next cup of coffee.
It's right around the corner.
That's it. So thank you so much for coming on, and thank you everybody else for listening or watching this episode of the Patty G Show. We are here each and every week, and as you know, Community Coffee is right around every single corner here in our great city and our great state. So y'all, thank you for tuning in. We'll catch you next week.